Right, exactly right. The fraud has been going exponential with Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and all the banks. And the Fed has been soaking up all the bad debt that, had they kept it on their balance sheet, these banks would have had to declare insolvency. And as a result, America is now losing out in the global geopolitical race to China. I think there's a direct connection. It's a direct connection. And now we're at a stage where, don't mention we also broke Bitcoin at $1 on this show. We're at that point now in history where the central bank, it cannot bail it out itself if it's the only boat in the water. In other words, America sprung a leak. It's sinking on the geopolitical stage to China, and to bail itself out, it's trying to shovel the water out of the boat, and then they put it back into the central bank, right? So they're doing this. That's how they're bailing themselves out. And of course, they're sinking.
Again, we've talked about this in previous episodes. It's just an inevitable thing. It's not like if it were France who were the empire right now, they would be doing the same thing. If it were Brazil, they would be doing the same thing. This is the inevitability. And what we're telling you is just prepare for such inevitabilities. This is what happens. This is why, the Thucydides trap is when a rising power always ends up in conflict with a shrinking power. And we hit that moment in, like 2 years ago, when it was clear that Huawei, the Chinese telecoms giant, was way better and faster and better. Their product was cheaper and better than any product in the West in terms of 5G technology. So they were beating us in technology. So I want to look at one of the former biggest tech companies in the United States and how we chose. It's not like we're saying it's because that's a good guy or that's the bad guy. These are choices that were made. These are choices that apparently get made throughout history, because that's why empires always collapse the same way. They always make the same sort of choices. Over the last 20 years, IBM has bought back $136 billion of its stock. Its current market cap is $111 billion. And you can see from their bumps of when they bought back a huge amount in any one given year. And imagine if they had just allocated back in 2014 or 2012, $1 billion of it to their corporate treasury into Bitcoin. They would now be worth $300 billion, not $111 billion.
Right. This is why stock buybacks used to be illegal, because the company is just committing cannibalism on itself. And instead of putting money to work to develop markets, develop new products, research new products, they're just manipulating earnings so that the executives get big payouts. And they're extracting wealth from the company, extracting wealth from shareholders. There's a clear conflict of interest. And this is what a lot of companies are doing. Apple is doing it by the hundreds of billions of dollars, and other companies are buying back their own stock. MicroStrategy under Michael Saylor said, you know what, we're not going to buy back our own stock. We're going to put our cash on our balance sheet into Bitcoin. So he broke from the pack because he realized he doesn't want to be like IBM. He doesn't want to waste all of his cash on stock buybacks and see the stock drop. And this is unfortunately like bailing themselves out by buying their own stock. Again, they're trying to, it's a sinking boat, IBM. So they're bailing out their bad company by putting it back on the balance sheet, and it's not working.
And of course, that's kind of mirroring what the Fed is doing. It's essentially buying back the stock of America and hollowing out rather than investing in it. It's buying all the old bad debts of these same companies like IBM. It's putting it onto their balance sheet for no good. Like, it's not going towards any manufacturing in the United States. Remember, we're 10 months into this pandemic, and we're still unable
Think of
to
it
make
like
masks.
this. The Fed is like a giant pawn shop. People take things to the pawn shop and they get cash for it, and they say, I'll come back and I'll buy it someday later. And all these companies that have gone to the Fed to buy their stock from them to get cash, immediate cash, to give themselves a huge spending spree and credit spree and an executive bonus, by the time they go back to the pawn shop, the value has dropped considerably. And anytime you have all of your major corporations going to the pawn shop for cash, that's a bad signal. It's a bad sign.